Hey guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. In the last two blockly parts, we talked about logging, we talked about the items in general, some voice commands, and today we will dive in a little bit further to notifications and persistence. Again, Stefan is with me today, and yeah, welcome to another video.
Yeah, it actually took us by surprise how much blocks we have here, how much variety. So we thought we'd do another session. So let's get started. I think we start with datetimes.
Yeah.
So I'll do a screen share first. Okay. So let's write a new rule. And with the rule, somewhat how we do this. We create a new rule. So what do we want to do? Remember, Michael, when you were writing, when you did that session about trash cans and when it's going to be taken?
Yeah, and cannot get the notification about tomorrow.
Right, get the notification that tomorrow the garbage disposal people would gather the trash can.
Yeah.
So, and usually all this date fiddling is really complex. There was actually a community member who provided a library for that. And just lately, based on that library, we actually added some of these to the core. So thanks to this person, I think David was his name, and I took it over and I kind of refactored them and made them more core-like. And I'd like to show you how you can easily work with dates. This could be even a complete session, but let's concentrate on the main part. So let's call that trash or garbage disposal, and give it the same name. Makes it easier. Here we go. So let's see how that works. Again, we use a time trigger here. Usually, I think you did that when did you do that? At
7 p.m. because I thought normally I'd be at home at 7 p.m. but yeah.
Okay.
That was the reason that I chose 7, but you can do whatever.
Well, let's take 7 p.m. then.
Yeah.
1900. I just specify time and we start writing a blockly script. Okay, so the way we do this, I usually start with a log in the beginning, just so I know that the rule was triggered. So garbage check, yeah, let's use this again to show one of the items, and the item that we use is the date when the garbage would be taken, and we have a garbage disposal date here. What I did last time, and I don't want to leave that page. I want to use the developer tools again because I want to see what's in that object. So we pin the items from the model. So I think we're lucky in my case because here you see the time actually garbage is taken tomorrow. So tomorrow is the 18th of June. So everyone knows when we actually recorded that meeting, that session here. So we have that here. So we need to take again the garbage disposal rule. We're at 1900, 7 p.m. So what I would expect is if we ran this at 1900, it would give us that in the log file, because we don't want to wait until 1900. What we can easily say do is just run it now, Command R, and see what it's telling. And you see garbage check. So 18th of June, it will at 8:32 in the morning, it would actually be that. So how do we do this? So we need a logic. We take an if statement and we comparison. And what we want to say is, if when at 1900, we want to check if at that time, but at the next day, there's a garbage disposal. So first of all,
basically the next 29 hours.
Yeah. And so we compare it with the garbage disposal state, but we want to compare it in a way that we want to see, how do we say that? We don't care about times and so on. We only care about dates, and we actually make it a little bit different. So therefore we have our dates and times. So what we want to do is, first of all, in this, it's not straightforward what you would think, but what we want to generate is actually, we want to generate the day of today and make it one day more. So what we do is, so we take now, so now is today, right? And from the now, we make, you'll see in a second what we do. So we make a copy of now. So a copy of now, why do we do this? Because we want to use the current date, but add one day to it. Got it? So how do we do this? So you can see we make a copy of now, but we cannot change anything. And that's the new thing that was just implemented lately. So now you can override or add anything you want. So you take the copy of now from today, and you say you add 1 hour. Where do we get the hour from? Well, you go here, take one of these, what we call temporals, or and you can override whatever. So you can switch through these here.
Just click on the arrow.
Say it again. Yeah, on the arrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Try to use the arrows to scroll through what you want to add, and you want to add one day. So this block is kind of intimidating in the beginning, but it's extremely generic. So if you wanted to add not only another day, but for example another week, you just copy that. And so wherever you put that, you can do whatever you want and scroll through, or let's say 1 day and 1 week. So
basically in this case, it would be better to do 1 day and 5 hours, because you wanna check the hours after 7 p.m. too. So
yeah. So that's why, and you'll see that in a second, why we have to tell the comparison, whether it takes into account the hours or only the date. I'll make it a little bit simple in that case. So I take that off again. So we don't want to do that. So I'll remove that. So I throw it away. So basically what we did, we used the current time, date and time. We add 1 day. But during the comparison that we will do now, we don't take care about the hour itself. We only want to do a comparison based on the date itself. So what do we use? Equal to, where is it? There it is. So we use that one. Oops. So we use that one. So that's the comparison block. So I was actually pretty fast here. So there's different comparison that allows. So here is a comparison where you can compare two date times. There's only things where you can say whether it's between 2 dates. So I chose the first one. I've chosen the first one. So compare today plus 1 day to this one. Okay, but it doesn't, you see, it doesn't work. So why doesn't it work? It doesn't click into that hole here. The reason is that is still the state of the item. And this is actually a comparison. And the comparison wants to make sure that the right types are compared. This is a date time. So this is a date object, but this is only a state. So you have to tell it, please, here, this is the string, and make a datetime object out of it. Okay. So the comparison thing wants to have date objects to be compared, and all of a sudden it works. So use, so is this date plus 1 day equal, oops, that happens on Mac a lot, equal to our garbage disposal state. But we only want to compare the date, right? So this is important. So you see this block is really flexible. So you can choose the comparison type. You can choose the resolution. You can say whether it should compare date and time, only date or only time. And then you can even say the resolution. And because we don't want to compare on years or on months, but we want to compare on years, months, and dates. And this is it. You don't want to write this in DSL or JavaScript or so. There's a pretty likelihood that you do something wrong, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward if you've done that once. It's probably not the easiest way, the easiest thing to do, but it's pretty straightforward when you have done it for the first time.
It's way easier than write the plain code like I did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this one is way easier, and I think a lot of people, even now, if you get the functions, you can do it.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to do something here. So there's two things there's actually one thing that you did. I remember that in the living room you were saying, "Hey guy, you have to move the trash can out of the door."
Yeah.
So we do this. This is nothing new, but you can use the doorbell. And I'm using this for a reason, because there's something important because we want to say something too. And you have a problem if you play a doorbell and then say something. As I mentioned, it would play the doorbell and then right away on the same device would start saying something. So in that case, what you would also want to add is a wait, for example. So you would know, you need to know how long the doorbell actually takes. Let's say 1 second, or let's say 2 seconds. And only then you want to say something. So move the trash can to the street. And we would choose again the speaker, and let's take Australian accent here. So not sure if someone is listening to us on Australia, but here's to you, Australia. And that should work well.
Gotta change the second Chromecast, the first one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that one. True. Thank you. So yeah, that's pair programming. I love that. 4 eyes see more than 2 eyes. So now I save it, I run it, and hopefully it works.
Move the trash can to the street.
Yeah, it sounded much more Australian than I had
nice
thought.
accent.
A nice accent. So you noticed that it actually waited for that time, so the doorbell could really ring out, and only then it says something. What we also want to add here is, let's say you are not in the living room, but to be honest, most of us, we have our mobile phone with us. And in case, and that's important, in case you use an openHAB on the web, so you have myopenhab.org, which is a hosted cloud service by the openHAB.
And it's free, by the way.
Foundation, exactly. It's completely free. It's just actually paid by the openHAB Foundation, which is a non-profit organization. So we make sure that we have enough money to actually provide that to the whole community. So if you have my openHAB running, you can easily use notifications, and this is really awesome. So what you need to have is, let me switch my camera so I can show that on the mobile phone. So there is, when I can show, if I can show that through the camera, so you can see my mobile phone here. and there is an icon for openHAB, and I openHAB so I have this app here. So I think I have to move it around like that, right? So like that. If you have that app on your mobile phone and you have set up a user account on the openHAB.org, you can use that to send a notification. Let's see how that works. So I'll close the app again. So here we go. And we use the notification section here. And the easiest way you can do that, and I would actually recommend that, send a notification with an icon to all devices. So this is really easy. We copy that text. Yeah. And you can also choose a special icon with it. Do you remember what we, or do you have an idea? Well, we can use arrow.
I think it was waste. Yeah, I think it
is
was
existing. I don't know. But arrow is existing. This is like a warning sign.
Yeah.
And it sends it as an information to all devices. There's also, I show that just for the record, there's also something to, where you can say, send something to an email address. And this is actually misunderstood by many people. They think that this message actually is sent to an email address as an email, but it doesn't. It has nothing to do with sending email. It actually uses the email address that is registered on my openHAB.org to only send that to that email address. So if you're logged in my openHAB with your app, with your email address, you getting this, you are only getting this notification. So don't mix that up with emails. It's the username basically from openHAB.
Yeah.
So my recommendation, if you don't want to be specific, so in your case, for example, you wanted to send something to your girlfriend only, or to yourself, then you could use that. But in general, everyone wanted to know that. Just go for that one. You don't have to care about email addresses and do that. So let's just for making it quicker, I disable that here, disable the block, and I'll try that out again. So let's see whether something is happening on the...
Move the trash bin to the straight.
And I'll bring that a little bit nearer probably so on the top, you can see already there's an icon. And if I scroll down, is it actually readable that way?
Yeah, I full screened the camera so we can see it kind of.
It's really hard. So here you see what here it is.
Yeah.
So, and it was actually in no time. It was appearing in no time. Move the trash can to the straight.
And I think you don't even have to open the openHAB app once. So in my case, I tried it with my iPhone. And of course, you gotta turn on your notification on the iPhone for the app openHAB. But you don't even have to open it. You just have basically to use the notification, and then that's it.
Yeah, true. So, and again, so this is extremely easy to implement. So the only setup you need to have is openHAB.org, and we can quickly check. I think I had, so again, if you go to the help, you see, for example, it tells you what icon names you can use. So these are the names, and in this case, we use the arrow icon, so that one. But as you can see, there's lots of different icons that you can use. For the advanced people, the F7 icons cannot be used, only openHAB icons. These people who know what F7 icons are would know probably what I mean. Also, this notification can be then viewed at my openHAB.org notifications. So if you would go there, we would ask you to log in here. Okay. Good. Any questions regarding that?
No, that's actually, I actually updated my rule a little bit more. So mine is even more complex because this one to write on normal programming skills, it's kind of challenging because, you know, as you said, with the base date and everything like that, and the base time. And I even extended it to 3 disposal dates, or normally calendar dates. So I get 3 warnings, so 3 messages.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and did you already convert that to Blockly?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm still working on it. I think I converted maybe like 80-90% of my rules. The complex ones are the last ones I want to convert.
Okay, so I give it as a homework to you. For Okay, then let's tackle another topic that we haven't talked about before. Just a few ideas about that. It's actually the persistence part, and most people even don't know that it exists. But let me quickly write the persistence rule and then explain a little bit about it. I don't do a trigger now. It's rather about what you can do here and kind of demo it. So we went through items, things, times, delays, voice and multimedia, dates and times. And there's something like Ephemeris. Let's talk quickly mention that here before we go to the persistence part. So Ephemeris is calendar things. So for example, you can ask if today is a holiday or is a weekend or is the weekend or is a weekday. That might be something of interest. So you would only want to do something that is, for example, during the weekday. In these cases, you need to use the so-called Ephemeris dates. And these are here. So there's on the so if today, so you can't use now. I don't want to go into details, but if you want to say if today is a weekday, then you can use it. Or you can say if today, so let's say if today plus, let's say 3 days, oops. So it moved around a little bit. Here you go. So, and if today plus, let's say the day after tomorrow, then it's today plus 2 is a weekday, and you can play around with these things. Also, Ephemeris has, for example, give me the holiday name. And for example, you can say, give me the holiday name in 2 days or so. So if in 2 days, for example, there would be Christmas, it will give you back Christmas. So how does it know? You can look up the documentation that I linked in the help. There's actually an Ephemeris configuration file, which has a few days already set up. And you can even add, for example, your girlfriend's or your mom's day here and use them. So very nice thing. So I've seen a lot of people using it. So if you want to know how to do that, check out the help documentation, just as I mentioned here. And you can even say, for example, tell me the days until the holiday name Christmas. So that could be something on the dashboard, or you can say, well, 1 week to go to Christmas, it's about time to get some gifts.
3 days before Christmas.
3 days before Christmas, it's really sometimes. So, okay, let's talk about persistence. So many of you have probably seen that openHAB stores your states, for example, your temperatures, basically by default. So you can go back and see what was the temperature and centigrade, or actually even any state, any item state is by default captured. We want something that's called RD4J or something like that. I still can't, I always get it wrong. Anyways, that's a database that stores that, and we can leverage that. So how can we use that? So the way we can use that is with that block. So we will take a log statement again. And of course, you can use it not only in log statements, but for anything else. And let's say we want to use, I'm not sure if I have prepared something here. No, we can use go into my house. We go into the living room and we have a temperature here. So that's the temperature of the living room. And it can calculate the average of the living room temperature for the last, let's say, 8 hours. So let's store that, let's run that. And here you go. So it says it was 20.2 degrees in the last, what was it, 8 hours on average?
Yeah.
Then let's take the last 1 hour. It's actually pretty sunny outside at the moment. Not sure what the weather's like on your location, but I'm sure it must be higher. So at least you see it was 1.5 degrees higher in the last hour. So it's rising at the moment. And you could imagine probably a lot of things are doing that. You can have the delta between now and let's say 1 hour ago, or the deviation, how it was fluctuating, variance, the evolution rate. You can even have the minimum and the maximum. Let's take the minimum and the maximum in the last 8 hours. So copy that. Gives the minimum and the maximum. Run it. Here we go. So minimum 19.1, 21.8 was the maximum. So I'm sure you can think of a lot of things that can be done with that. Also, what might be nice to do, let's say you have a post box. So people would probably think about persistence only in case of temperatures or a similar values like that. But let's say you have a post box and you have put a sensor on it whether someone had opened the post box or not. And I wanted to know whether the post box was opened within the last 3 hours. How do I do this? Well, you can use that again. So what we want to do is we don't use that one, but we have a different one. We can use that one, and it says, tell me if the state of the post box. I remember that I added that. So we have the post box switch here. Tell me if the post box has changed since the last 3 hours. And that's all. Nothing more than easy at that. It just checks back if there had been assertion, whether it has open to close, close to open, and it would tell me. So you could imagine you run this like every other 10 minutes. Okay, so imagine you run this, let's say every other 5 minutes. It would then check if the state has changed with the post box. And what we would want to do is probably notify them. So let's quickly do that. Throw away the log, use an if. And you don't always have to use this equals thing. So because in that case, it just says true or false. So if the state of the postpack has changed since the last 3 hours, then send a notification, send to everyone, send a notification to everyone. And yeah, probably we use the icon text. That's a little like a text icon, and says, please empty the post box. To be honest, unfortunately, I don't have a sensor, but coming up with this idea, Misha, I think I have to do something really geeky on my post box, because I think
it's quite easy. For example, SwitchBot got a little contact sensor. It's with a battery, and I think it lasts like a year or something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, or maybe a little Shelly, like a window door opener. That's probably also. I think I have something in my cellar. I have to do that. Well, I'll let you know. So this basically wraps up most of it, because we haven't touched all the blocks. So you can say these top ones that are the basic blocks from Blockly, it's like the logics. So we have used that. Some are not aware that there's even, you can actually compare to, so you can actually invert block conditions, or you can check if something is null. There's a lot of loops more. There's even a loop that count or something that uses a variable. We haven't touched on variables, to be honest, but people who are used to programming, they probably know what it is. You can create a variable and reuse it. There's a lot of math here. Most people have overlooked that, but it's really handy. So if you want to add something or you want to round numbers, that's something you often use, rounding numbers, because often you have a lot of fractional digits. There's a lot of text stuff here. You can find something, for example, first occurrence, or you can get a substring. So really have a look at these. They are pretty helpful. There's a special edition that I'd like to mention, is the CRLF, which is standing for carriage return line feed. Basically, it's an additional line feed. Let me just quickly say, use that. It was just lately added, but it's pretty helpful if you have several text items. And so, for example, you use that like that. So you have the first line, and you have a second line, like so. But it should not concatenate it directly, but it should be separated by a new line. Then you can use this carriage return line feed. So that's the way you use it. And we just added that lately because it's really missing in many cases. So that is really helpful. And that's just actually not a general blockly block. These are general ones, but that was added by us. There's a lot of stuff with lists. I'm not going to go through these. Have an eye on them if you're working with lists and loops and iterators. Colors we touched on. You can not only use, for example, the color block, but you can create your own color. So if you want to have the color like this, 150/20, then again add the HSB in front of it, so like so. And that works like that. So it works well. We touched on items and things, get the state of the item, sending items. We haven't touched on things because that's something you don't use so often. There's even more complex timers. As I mentioned, you can cancel timers, but you also can check if the timer is running, if it has terminated. Look up the documentation to see what's behind that. I think we basically have touched these, Michi, right? So we went through all of these.
I think we did, yeah.
So this has been pretty new. What I haven't shown, there's several ways of creating a date time. You can provide a string, and let me just show you that it tries to detect it as good as possible. So so this is in this case, it's actually a date picker. But there's another one where you can provide just a string, and it tries to kind of detect that. Here are the different formats that it knows about, and if it's the certain kind of length is actually currently detected by length, then it uses that format. We will implement that in a more in a better way in the future, so it really detects the pattern. So you need to know that how it works, and there's comparisons, and you can even, in this case, you can say what is the year or what is the, so if you need something particular of a date, you want to know, for example, the day of the month, or you want to know the minute of that daytime, you can extract these parts of the daytime here. Also very helpful and often used. And you could even calculate, for example, the days between two dates. Very easy. Ephemeris we touched on, notification we did, persistence, value storage, just a quick information. This is like a global variable. If you want to store something in a rule and the next time the rule is again triggered, then you can store it in under a certain name, and then it can be retrieved later. This is particularly important if you want to remember something between different times of the rule triggerness. Note that this is not shared between rules. So it's a global variable for a particular rule. If you want to share something between rules, the only way is to do what we call an artificial item and store it there. If you don't know exactly what I mean, but you have the requirements, just ask us in the forum and we'll help you. The other thing that we didn't mention was the run and process. This is pretty advanced. The basic idea is if you have different rules and you want to call one rule from that rule, so you can then call it. Either you can even call scripts that are on the server, or you can create a rule that is done in Blockly. I think you mentioned, Michi, that you use this map transform a lot.
I did in the past. Yeah, I tried to get away from it.
There's a lot of different conversions. Possible, you better read the documentation here. Not you, but
I will too.
Yeah, true. And the reason why I opened this again, this is extremely advanced, but I wanted to mention this inline script, as we mentioned here, this creates a lot of JavaScript or ECMAScript to pick here. And sometimes there might be the situation that something is missing in Blockly. For some reason, we forgot to implement that in Blockly. And if you are an advanced developer, you can actually put this inline script in between, which takes the code. Well, there's code that is generated here and there's code that is generated afterwards. And you can basically put any JavaScript or ECMAScript here and do what is missing in Blockly. So we won't go into that. It's only for those who are very advanced, who know what they're doing. But this is actually if something is missing, you can do almost everything there. And finally, logging and output, we have that. So that wraps up Blockly. More than 50 blocks that we have, I'd say like 60, I think already. And hopefully that gave you a good insight to work on that. And if you have any questions, just let us know. If you feel there's a block missing, let us know. If you don't know how it works, let us know. And if you think there's a bug or an error in it, we're happy to hear that.
And even just post it in the comment section here from on the video. We will try to answer the questions. And if you got a problem, you can write it here too. And yeah, I think we owe you a lot of thanks to create the Blockly library as you did, and documentation. And yeah, I think you did an awesome job. And thanks for the video today, for the almost 4-hour talk. I tried to separate this video in 3 parts or something like that it's going to be a little bit shorter and separate the different functions. But as you can see, I think you can do almost everything with Blockly. And especially for newcomers, it's quite easy because, as I already said, like you can read what it does. And even if you don't have the right Blockly in there, you can write your own code in the little string type. And yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thanks again, Stefan, for your time and effort and your great job. So we will see you to the next one, and have a great day. And bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.